I will tell you a story of how. Wait, wait. I just realized something. I was going to tell you a story, but I didn't explain you why I'm dressed like this or why do I have this makeup. First of all, it's Halloween, and second of all, I was recording a video for my other YouTube channel. And for this video, I thought about creating a YouTube video about my hyperfixations. As I told you before, I don't know if I have ADHD or autism. I haven't checked, but I will. I will soon. I'm going to therapy, so now that I'm curious about it, I should ask her. So, my first hyperfixation ever was Cats the Musical from the 90s. I was really young when I discovered my parents had a VHS, which was a recording of the musical Cats, which was very weird because neither of my parents are really musical persons. My mom is nowadays, but back then I don't really clock her as a musical person. But when I watched this film, I was mesmerized by the cat's costumes, and I even asked Santa Claus for the cat's costume for Christmas. And my mom had to get out and tell me, Santa Claus is very busy, and he just told me that the cat's costumes are sold out. Every kid out there wants a piece of cats, and I thought it was weird because I didn't know anyone else that liked cats back then. Like, nobody my age liked cats, just me in my hometown back then. So kind of weird, but I thought, well, okay, maybe kids from all over the world, but not here. But okay, I understand, Santa, you do you. So, well, I was disappointed, but I was really, really hypnotized also by all the theatrics of this musical. I loved the music, I loved the acting and the dancing, especially the dancing. It was really hypnotizing. But when I got to get obsessed, I used to watch it every single day, and even one time my cousin was in my room because it was the room which had the best TV during a family meeting. So he went there to watch a football match. And that day I didn't watch Cats. I hadn't watched Cats that day. And I had to pressure my cousin into stopping to into stop watching his football match to let me watch my recorded VHS of Cats because I was going crazy because I hadn't watched it that day. And if you know football matches, you know that football matches are usually live and you rarely get to see the match again because of all the lawsuits and politics. And back then we had the internet, but you couldn't barely you couldn't watch videos on the internet back then. This was really, really a long time ago. And yeah, it was the beginnings of the internet, honestly. And it wasn't like my cousin could go online and search for illegal football matches live. No, he couldn't do that. So now that I think about it, I feel bad for my cousin because he couldn't watch his football match in a great TV. Lame. I was really lame. All because a nerd like me wanted to watch her Cats musical. But well, when I got to watch Cats every day, I used that VHS every day like a crazy person. The VHS, of course, got really bad. It was all pixelated. It originally didn't have such a good quality because it was recorded. So when I was a little bit older, well, I kind of stopped watching cats. So when I was a little bit older, my aunt from overseas came to the town and gifted me a DVD of cats, and I was really thrilled, and I got really excited because when I opened the DVD box, I saw there were two CDs, one of the musical itself and one of the backstage, and I was like, oh my god, finally I have more content of cats. And not only that, you would say, oh, well, why didn't you look for more content online? Well, back then, first of all, I was really, really young. I didn't know how to make a Google search. And second of all, I couldn't watch more content online because YouTube back then didn't exist, or didn't exist as we know it now. I'm that old. So, yeah. I finally watched the backstage. I fell in love with all the cast. Everybody there was handsome and beautiful. All the ladies were beautiful. All the boys were really, really handsome. And the makeup artist was such a queen. It was incredible to watch the original designs on paper and then seeing these paintings into their faces. I was really, really impressed and inspired. And I watched the backstage every day. I watched again the DVD every day. But it got to a point where I grew up. I started to be a preteen, a tween, and then a teenager, and my interests changed to rock music. Then I had my second hyperfixation, Kurt Cobain. I won't tell you much because I already told you about my fanciness of Kurt Cobain, if you could call it that, if that's even a word. My liking of Kurt Cobain, I don't know. But I was really obsessed with Nirvana, its history, Kurt's relationship with Courtney Love, then how Kurt passed away. I got into this conspiracy theory area, and I even used to visit a web page that was called Justice for Cobain because I didn't think he did it himself. And I was so obsessed with this webpage and with this conspiracy theory that I used to get in this page in my Wii, in my Nintendo Wii. I would type in justiceforcobain.com and then started reading all the webpage content on my Wii, which was weird AF because this webpage was very graphic and it had many examples of, oh, yeah, right, Kurt himself in the head, but his head was intact. These are examples of other people who have blown their heads. I was like 12, by the way, watching this, and this is what unsupervised internet does to you. I was obviously traumatized, but I was a firm believer that Kurt didn't do it. Honestly, nowadays, I I don't know. I mean, I would hope that he didn't do it, but at the same time, it would be a shame if someone else did it. But I prefer to stay with the version that went to the press, with the official version. He decided it himself, and he finally is at peace in the other life. I mean, I don't want to tickle this conspiracy theory world because some people do this just because of the more, but the I don't know what word could I use to describe this Spanish word. Wait. Uh Morbidity, yeah. Okay, so some people do this because of the morbidity of it all. They don't really care about artists or cases, they just want everything to be darker than it is. So I just leave the issue as it is. And yeah, I kept liking Nirvana despite all this conspiracy theory world I entered. But I still liked Nirvana and I was really obsessed with them. But then came Brody Doll, then came K pop. But then in 2010, there was an obsession I haven't talked to you about. It was the Beatles. The Beatles, I loved the Beatles. How did this come to be? Well, when I was little, first, my dad had a VHS of Yellow Submarine, and that's how I originally knew them because of the movie Yellow Submarine. Great. Now I grew up, I didn't listen to them as much really, but by 2010 I was scrolling through Tumblr. Yeah, in 2010. I was scrolling through Tumblr more than 15 years ago, and I stopped by a Paul McCartney picture dressed as an astronaut. And I thought, who is this handsome gentleman? It's Paul McCartney. And I grew interested in Paul because, well, I was already into rock and roll, and Nirvana and Brody Day, and of course I knew the Beatles and everything. But this Tumblr post meant that I needed to know more about the Beatles. At least I took it as this sign that I needed to know more about the Beatles. So what did I do? I used my illegal music downloader and I downloaded many old songs from the Beatles, which is funny because all of the Beatles songs are old, but I downloaded like the first songs recorded by them because, as I told you before, I like to consume things chronologically. But this time, well, this time, yeah, I did this chronologically and I loved it. I saw her standing there. That was the first song of the Beatles I listened on my own, and I thought, you know what? Here's another hyperfixation. Here I go. I ended up downloading all of the Beatles albums, and I ended up learning all of the Beatles lyrics, and I ended up learning almost all of the Beatles guitar chords. Not only that, but I also made my Tumblr page at the Beatles fan page. I interacted with many other Beatles fans, and it's funny because back then we were all twins, and these guys, the Beatles, I mean, there were only two of them alive, and the two of them were like 70. I don't know. It's really funny, and it's even funnier nowadays when I get into my phone and I get into X or Twitter, and I see these new Beatles fans or these new people who are having their Beatles hyperfixation in the big year of 2025, which I find really respectable. And when I go to their profiles and see what age they are, these are girls in their 15s, in their 14s, and I'm like, wait, I was one of them once in my lifetime. I was one of them. And to see this repeating itself, it's so funny. Like, girlhood is a spectrum, and I got my Beatlemania at 14. These girls are getting their Beatlemania at the same age as me, but like 15 years later, and some things never change, and I feel so good about it. Like, good music and fandoms transcend time, and girlhood transcends time too, because it's incredible how effective it is to be a fan girl, and it tells you life is a cycle. But okay, now I turned my whole page into the Beatles fan page, but it didn't end there. Of course, I also found a web page where they uploaded pictures of the Beatles, which were often ignored by every other web page because these pictures weren't as official or, let's say, captivating. So many other websites used to ignore these pictures, and they had pictures from every year since the Beatles were active, and I found it amazing. And I used this web page to drown. Uh, yeah, I drowned myself into this web page every afternoon I got from school. I got home from school, and I saved every single picture on this web page. It took me days, because back then you needed to click right, save image, save as, and I did this with every freaking image of this web page. And you know what I did? I basically sold these images, and I used to edit these images and then upload these images with a watermark, with my own watermark, in the pictures, as if I had taken this picture, and I hadn't taken these pictures, of course, but I did this like they were mine. But at least I edited them. I mean, I did something. I did something of my own, but I stole the pictures. So, tomato, tomato. And yeah, I drowned for hours in this web page. And you know what? Some of my Tumblr mates started to complain about my watermark because it was too big. They were telling me, oh, please remove that watermark or make it smaller because it looks ugly in the picture and you ruin it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't put watermark here because it's not even my picture. But I used to do that a lot, and I published many pictures, but by 2012 I stopped. My obsession lasted from 2010 to 2011, and it stopped suddenly. I don't know what changed, what switched, but it changed. Maybe because back then I got to being 16 and I started dating boys. Ew. But I started dating boys, of course. My hyperfixations were there, but not as strong, and I also didn't have much time as well. I mean, I had time, but not that much time because I was focused on passing my school subjects and dating boys. But I miss my Beatles fixation sometimes, and I think I can grow it again. But now that I'm an adult, it's different. I got fixations in different things, but these were two of my most beloved fixations, or maybe three. Cats from the 90s, a little bit of Nirvana, and the Beatles. Well, I got to say, my favorite Beatle is Paul McCartney, and my favorite album is Magical Mystery Tour or Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band. And I saw every Beatles movie ever made, and I loved Magical Mystery Tour because it's so surreal. The humor is really surreal. All the movie is so surreal. And I have some friends that would tell me like, "Oh, the Beatles are great, but their movies are terrible." And I'm like, "You just don't get it. Of course, the movies are terrible. They are not actors. These movies are not Oscar worthy. These are just movies for the sake of having a movie." And I eat it up every time. So my favorite Beatle was Paul McCartney, it still is, and my favorite movie and album, Magical Mystery Tour. Now I don't know why Magical Mystery Tour album has a lot of Sgt. Pepper songs, and that's maybe because Magical Mystery Tour is based on the movie, and the movie has many songs from Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band, but I love the presentation of the Magical Mystery Tour album more, so I stick with the Magical Mystery Tour album. So, well, that was basically me having a weird conversation with myself about the hyperfixations I have had during my long life. And now I have this what we do in the shadows fixation, which will eventually go away and be replaced with a new one. But these fixations will always be my fixations. It's not like, oh, they will go away. I mean, no, I just find a new fixation, enjoy the fixation for the first time, and then go back to my old fixation to discover then a new fixation and go back to another old fixation. It goes around and around and around. It doesn't just go away. I still watch Cats from time to time. I still listen to the Beatles from time to time. I'm still fixated in Nirvana. And you know what? The fixation I've returned to the list is the Beatles. And I think I should return to them more often. So that's it. What do you think? Do you have any hyperfixation? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video was a little bit better in terms of trying to understand me and quality wise. So yeah, that's it. Bye. See you later.